Hi, welcome to Ellington News and Events. I'm Lori Burstein, your newly elected first selectman. I'm the new Lori, and I'm here with Dave Arts, president of the Crystal Lake Association. It's such a pleasure to have you here today. It takes a tremendous amount of dedication and time to keep our water quality in good shape, and with the erosion, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes at Crystal Lake, and I wanted to talk to you about that today. But first, we can talk about how we first met.
Yeah, that was very interesting.
Yeah.
She and her husband made a Chesapeake Light Craft double kayak, and my daughter had made one too, so I flagged her down in the boat out on the lake, took pictures of it, got her phone, and sent it to her.
It was so kind, and it was like that was our maiden voyage. That was our pandemic project. We built that thing, and it was huge. And it was so big that it was really hard, even with a big SUV. We had a contraption to keep it on top and get it down to Crystal Lake. And we're thinking, oh my gosh, why did we make it this big? Why did we have a three-seater?
Well, my daughter's is a single-seater,
Yeah.
and it's an ocean kayak, and it's 18 foot long. So I think yours is probably at least 24.
And the maiden voyage, a lot of epoxy. It didn't sink, thank God. But I appreciate that. It was so nice meeting you and Vic that day.
Yeah.
And that you knew like a Chesapeake Light Craft.
Yeah. You don't see too many of them, so you have to talk to the people that have them.
So can you tell us about the behind the scenes that goes on running the Lake Association? And I know you have a lot of stuff that you do for the lake that helps the community appreciate it.
Well, the mission of the Crystal Lake Association is to keep people informed, and the purpose is to protect, preserve, and enhance the lake and the surrounding area. And we feel we're stewards of the lake, and we work hard to try to keep it in good shape without harming it. One of the things that we do for the past 30 years, the Crystal Lake Association, with assistance from the town of Ellington, and they are a big supporter of the lake, and they know that this is quite a gem. It's a 200-acre lake, used heavily for recreation. We might get into it a little later, but there's a lot of history. It was a destination. In Rockville, there were 13 mills on the Hockanum River, and people worked 6 days a week, and on Sunday they would take the trolley out. There was a hotel, several beaches, and it was quite the place. In the 20s they had canoe races. In the 30s and 40s and up through the 60s they had sailboat races, and they had a Crystal Ski Club in the 60s. So one of the major things that we do, and we've done it for the past 30 years, is water testing. The water quality monthly in March through November. Volunteers from the Crystal Lake Association go out and they take temperature, every meter of depth, and dissolved oxygen from the meter, and then they take samples at 1 meter depth, 7 meters depth, and 14 meters depth, which is the surface, middle, and bottom of the lake. And we always do it in the same part, the deepest part of the lake. Send those to the lab for testing water quality, and we get annual reports. We have been using, for the past 30 years, Dr. George Knockline and the Northeast Aquatic Research. They're located in Mansfield, and they give us annual reports. These reports are on the the Crystal Lake Association website.
We share that on the town of Ellington.
I think we do send those to them also. The biggest problem is invasive plants. We have milfoil and some mud mat. We have some breadleaf pondweed, and we attack those annually. The milfoil in Crystal Lake was originally detected around 2000.
I remember that, and didn't you you guys came up with a new way to do it that a lot of other lakes were doing it at the time.
Well, there was a demonstration project over by the Northeast Cove. There's several areas of the lake. The north end of the lake is where the dam is, the outfall.
Yep.
And if you come down the east shore, there's a cove, and we actually have some eagles considering nesting in there. And that's the Northeast Cove. You go farther down, you have Aborn Beach and Aborn Cove. Then if you go at the very south end of the lake is the town beach, Sandy Beach, and that has quite a history. Back in the 20s and 30s, they had boxing there. And
Boxing, really? That's wild.
Crystal Lake was quite the place.
I remember teaching my kids to swim there years ago.
Yeah, and then off of West Shore Road, there's the state boat launch, which gives the public access to the lake 24/7, 365 days a year. We do have surveys. We do a pre-survey and a post-survey. We were talking about the demonstration project. Milfoil started showing up in the Northeast and a lot of other places in the Midwest and the West somewhere around 2000. In 2005, the town of Ellington and the Connecticut DEEP did a demonstration project with a new technique, suction harvesting, and where they use a pontoon boat and then they have pumps, and the name is a little misleading because they don't suck up the plants, they hand pick the plants.
They dive, do they dive down?
They use divers, and then they hand pick the plants. They have to get all the roots or the plants will come back, and they put them into the hose. It puts it up into the boat, and they put them into a bag. Then they take it to the Hoffman Road brush dump and put it away from all the other water areas.
Yeah, so it won't
spread. Now, milfoil is like a bottle brush, and it will fragment. It can be fragmented by swimming,
by boats,
by
too.
paddling, by propellers. If that doesn't happen, it naturally fragments.
Yeah,
and
it can kind of spread all over the place.
Yeah, what it does is it floats and grows roots and gets waterlogged, sinks, and now you have a new plant. So it's something that it's kind of like picking dandelions, where you keep at it, but you never completely finish. So they did that suction harvesting demonstration project and found out that it was feasible as a means to control milfoil. The Crystal Lake Association formed a milfoil committee because we knew we had plants in the lake that were not supposed to be there, and an invasive plant will overtake some of the.
Lose your lake.
Yeah, it outgrows some of the native plants and forces them out, and it can form a barrier so that the light can't get to the bottom, and you can't swim, you can't boat. It messes up the whole lake, and it makes it unusable. And Crystal Lake is very heavily used for recreation. As I said, the boat launch has access.
It's really a gem.
The town has access through the town beach, Sandy Beach, and they stock a lot of fish in there. It's a trophy lake for trout. They stock salmon. They stock some other fish in there too. So it's heavily used for recreation by the whole area, not just the immediate people or the town.
Being a lake person myself, I so appreciate Crystal Lake. There's a lot involved with the association.
So in 2009, the state of Connecticut, DEEP, came out with a grant for invasive plants, and the maximum was $50,000, and there was a 25% match with the town. So the Crystal Lake Association went to the selectmen, Mike Stupinski and Nick DiCorletto, the finance officer, and we're telling him, well, if we got the whole $67,000, we can probably do this because we got a lot of milfoil in the lake. If we get 10,000, we could only do this much. And Nick said, time out. you're going about this wrong. I said, is this something that the town needs? And he said, the answer is yes. And is it something the town can afford? And he said, the answer is yes. So what they did was he said, we will fund this as a capital expense. You apply for the grant, you get the grant, we'll put the money back into the town funding. So we did that, and then we found out that the state had $150,000 for 151 communities, and they ended up not even issuing any money. They pulled the grant.
Oh, wow.
So Crystal Lake, through the town of Ellington and the foresight of the fathers of the town, had a milfoil project.
Wow.
So we had the $25,000 annual budget, and we had the $67,000 capital expense, and
But it had to be done. There's
be
no
done.
doubt about it.
they spent 700 hours of suction harvesting, and
Was
I'm not
that much that year? That
Yeah,
many hours?
That
Wow.
many hours, yeah. They pulled milfoil from 174 bags, and they did it from 17 acres of a 200-acre lake.
It was really taking.
It
like,
was
if you
really
didn't
taking effect.
Do it that year, you were going to be in big trouble.
For the next 10 years, that was 2009, the project, and for the next 10 years, we had a $25,000 annual budget. We were pulling approximately 200 to 300 bags of milfoil using 100 hours of suction harvesting, which was funded by the town. The town formed the Ad Hoc Milfoil Committee, which consists of 5 members. Bill Merson was the original chairman. Unfortunately, Bill retired, moved to Las Vegas. He was quite a guy. He was a retired electrical engineer, and he even made a underwater camera submarine, which he called
Wow.
Crystal Rover,
Crystal Rover.
which is no longer working. And Bill's out in Las Vegas. We do miss him. But we have 5 members that are highly dedicated and
Without the volunteers, the lake would be in trouble. A lot of trouble.
Very, very experienced people. We have Jean Burns on she is chairman of the Wetlands Commission presently. She runs a Del Rey construction company with her husband. Then we have Leon Veretto, and he's a recent member, and he's done quite a bit of work with us. Vic Laptic, who's in charge of the monthly water quality and sampling. And
I met Vic that day with you.
that's right. And Roger Hosig, who was retired deputy director of the sub-base down in Groton. So we have and I'm a retired civil engineer, so we have quite a good team
Definitely.
on working for the town there. So after 10 years, some of the prices went up from, and we do have 2 main contractors. I mentioned New England Aquatic Research, and they do the water sampling, and they tell us what it all means.
Yeah.
Because we're not biologists.
Yeah, I have to explain it.
The way to succeed is surround yourself with good people. So the other firm that we've been using and we've been doing milfoil for 16 years. And by the way, the milfoil committee is a 1-year term, so I'm in my 16th year of a 1-year term. But the other firm is New England Aquatic Services that does suction harvesting, and they're located over in the Danbury area.
Okay.
And we have been using them for the past, the first 2 years was a different firm, and the lead diver was not there the second year. That was Matt Voigt, because he went to Afghanistan and for the service of our country.
Yeah.
And then when he came back, he purchased the company, and now it's
nice.
He's the owner.
That's wonderful.
It's a veterans company,
That's really nice.
and he has not increased the fees in those 15 years.
That's really,
So we have,
really good.
and he knows the lake. Dr. Nachlein knows the lake. Every year we have the plant survey done before we go out, and that's just a guide because underwater, it's not the same.
And it was going down like your man hours each year, like from the 700 hours, and then it kind
Well, the
of,
700 hours was a big thing
Yeah.
in the beginning.
And then
Then we
then
were
it
running
kind of-
somewhere around 100 hours.
Yeah.
And then around 2000, the budget went up to 40,000 because we had additional costs. We had additional plans to pull, and we did add some additional tasks for the water testing and things. So for the 2020 to 2022, we were doing somewhere around 120 to 140 hours of suction harvesting, and we've increased for 3.5 to a little over 4 acres, and we're getting about 350 bags of milfoil. Now, originally when they started, they had a different system. The bag was 6-foot diameter, 8-foot long. Now they've streamlined their operations, and the bag is about a cubic foot of material. So they pump it up onto the boat. There's a stormwater catch basin which makes a hole in the grade of the deck. The water drains through, the milfoil stays in the bag, and then they take the bags, and you can easily move a 1 cubic foot
yeah.
bag.
A lot easier.
Even though it is pretty heavy because the plants are filled with water.
oh, yeah.
But they do that. And then then we had to increase because from 23 on to the present, we've had a $60,000 town budget because of the increase in the plant growth. 2024, we had excessive growth at the dam, and the Crystal Lake Association funded an emergency project for 24 hours. The plants were coming up and they were flowering above the water in the dam area. Now, the dam area is used extensively by a lot of people to access the lake with their kayaks
Yeah.
and their paddle boards.
So now they can't do that with that kind of growth.
No, they do it, and it cuts the growth and it spreads it.
Oh, even worse.
So they came in and they did 3 days of emergency suction harvesting, and we had put mats in the dam area because we knew that was a persistent area. So we have about 18 mats that go on the bottom of the lake, and they're each 10 foot wide by 40 foot long. And that year, 2024, we jumped up to 6 acres of milfoil that we cleared, and approximately 450 bags. So you can see as time goes on, the plants are increasing in their growth.
Yeah.
And after that, we were very fortunate to get funded with the ARPA, which is the American Relief Project, the COVID-19 money. My wife saw on Facebook, I never would have seen it, but she keeps up on that stuff, that the town of Ellington opened for additional proposals for about 2 weeks. And it was because the sewage treatment plant in Vernon did not use $500,000 of money to upgrade their facility. For some reason, that was available.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah.
Good for your wife checking.
So we applied, Gene Burns and I had about a day or half a day, and we threw together a grant and asked for $60,000, and we were funded with that. So instead of having about 200 hours, we had over 400 hours which we used. And we came in June, and now we have had a little bit of money left over. Now we have fiscal years which go from July 1st to June 30th, which covers 2 halves of a growing season.
Yeah.
So that's a little difficult.
Yeah.
And so normally we have been having the divers come in August or July. And so because we had the additional funding and we knew we had a lot of problem with the plants in the lake, it was the milfoil and the pondweed, we had the divers come in June, and we had to use that money up from the previous year, which we had held, and we used some Crystal Lake Association money. The ARPA money was only for milfoil because of the way we wrote the grant.
Okay.
And because milfoil is an invasive plant.
Yeah.
And pondweed, which is another problem in the lake, is not considered an invasive plant.
So if you had added that.
We might not have gotten the grant.
Yeah.
So we had to have the divers go around and only pull milfoil, but they were keeping an eye on where the pondweed was.
And they couldn't touch the pondweed.
Well, if there was one little plant in a whole area, they would grab it. But
Yeah.
if there was a big patch, then they
Yeah.
couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So with that, we did approximately 16 acres, quite a jump. And we had up from the 200 bags that we had been doing, and then we had the 400 bags. We did 1,200 bags of invasive plants, and about 1,000 of those were milfoil, and about 250 were pondweed. Now the pondweed has a root system. Each plant comes down, it's a long streak, and it's the ribbon leaf pondweed. They come to the surface, and you have to follow those roots out. They are harder to
And it's evasive too, or
well, it's
not maybe to the level?
it's considered an invasive plant in Europe.
Yeah,
And
just
it's
not
a
here.
nuisance here.
Yeah.
And if you let it go,
pain.
and we had it, most people had it near their docks, and that means you'll be cutting it with the propellers and swimming and things like that.
Yeah.
And if you let it go, then pretty soon you can't access the lake anymore. When we had it resurveyed, which we do by the lake limnologist specialist, we found that there were 2 areas that had a little bit of regrowth. So we had Leon Ferretto spearheaded a grant for the AIS, which is the boat stickers, invasive aquatic species, and we've applied for that through the DEEP.
Great.
And we're hoping to get that, but additional funding may be required through the town.
I was talking to our state rep yesterday, Jamie Foster, and I said, let's see if we can find some grants and stuff to help with milfoil. So we're trying to keep our eye out. If something comes, you have to grab it quick.
Well, I wanted to thank the town for all their support. There's a lot of towns in the area in the Northeast, and they have a lot of problems with plants because their town fathers are not supporting them.
Yeah.
And we'd like to thank Ellington for all they do. And our goal is to keep the lake clean and keep it free of chemicals, which are being placed in a lot of other lakes.
You're doing non-chemicals.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes, that's very
we
important to us.
appreciate, and like next time you go to the lake and you're enjoying the beauty of it, just think about all the hard work that these volunteers do, so you can enjoy this natural resource. It's really important, and we appreciate it, and we'll keep trying to do whatever we can to help Crystal Lake. On that, I just wanted to talk about a couple things coming up. An evening with Humbug. Sarah Whelan brings Scrooge Untold Stories to life at the Nellie McKnight Museum. So that should be a lot of fun. We have a winter social January 5th at 6:30, hosted by EYS Alliance, Ellington Youth Service, EYS supervises. And it's an exciting way to collaborate with Ellington Senior Center to provide an event for EHS students to have fun with Ellington seniors. We have mini golf coming up Saturday, January 31st, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Hall Memorial Library, and it'll be transformed into a unique indoor mini golf course, which should be sounds like a blast. On Economic Development Commission is finishing up with their annual Shop Ellington campaign. where patrons could earn bingo stickers by visiting 25 participating businesses and enter their completed bingo cards into a raffle for a gift card. And lastly, prior to the Board of Selectmen January meeting, the Fire Marshal Office will present an award to this year's Fire Prevention Poster Contest winners. Students from each elementary school enter the statewide contest every year. So some great things coming up. And thank you for joining us today. And thank you, Dave. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.